My sister kicked me out while I was pregnant and my parents took her side, so I made one powerful decision that left them homeless and me truly free. Life as a single mom isn't a walk in the park, but for the last 5 years, it's been me and my daughter, Lily, against the world. I left her dad before she was even born. His cheating during my pregnancy was the final straw. I kicked him out, filed for child support, which he barely pays, and got back on my feet. Moving back in with my parents after the breakup seemed like the most sensible option. They offered to help, and I thought, why not? Family is supposed to support each other. For a while, it worked. I paid them rent and helped with groceries, which I thought was fair. My mom agreed to babysit Lily a few days a week so I could work, though she quickly started cutting corners on that promise. Instead of watching Lily, she'd leave her in front of the TV or tell me she was too busy to help. It wasn't ideal, but at least Lily was safe, and I could afford to save a little money. Then Mia came back into our lives like a wrecking ball. I'll never forget walking into the house after work, exhausted but ready to spend some time with Lily, and there she was, my younger sister, sitting on the couch like she'd never left. She had this smug look on her face, her massive pregnant belly resting on her lap, and she barely acknowledged me when I walked in. Mia and I have never had the best relationship. Growing up, she was always the golden child. I was the one who got told to set a good example while Mia ran around acting like a brat. If she broke something, my parents would find a way to blame me. If she picked a fight, they'd say I should be the bigger person. That favoritism didn't stop when we became adults. If anything, it got worse. A few years ago, Mia married her husband, Ben, and they moved to Germany for his job. I thought that distance might actually improve things between us. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Apparently not. My parents treated her like some kind of celebrity, constantly talking about how proud they were of her for starting a new life abroad. Meanwhile, I was juggling work, a newborn, and an absent partner, and the best I got was, well, that's just part of being an adult. So, seeing Mia back home, sitting comfortably on the couch like she owned the place, was jarring. I wanted to ask a million questions, but before I could, my mom swept in with the answer. "Oh, Mia's back for good," she said, her tone cheerful like this was the best news ever. "For good?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Mia, ever the queen of snark, answered from her spot on the couch, "Yeah, we're staying here. Ben got a transfer back to the US, and this is just easier for us." Got a problem with that? I bit my tongue, but the reality was sinking in fast. Mia wasn't just visiting, she was moving in permanently. My mom continued, "Well, Ben has company housing, but we thought it'd be best for Mia to stay here during her pregnancy and after the baby comes, so we can help her." Help her? When I was pregnant, my mom barely visited me. She certainly didn't offer to let me move back in or help in any meaningful way. I had to scrape by on my own, hiring a nanny while working full-time because my mom couldn't be bothered. But for Mia, it was a completely different story. My mom was practically tripping over herself to make her comfortable, bringing her snacks, fluffing her pillows, and acting like she was a fragile princess. I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't help asking, "And what about space? There's not exactly a lot of room here." Before my mom could answer, Mia shot back, "Don't worry about it. We'll make it work." Her tone made it clear she didn't care how it affected me or Lily. In her mind, this house was hers now. My mom brushed off my concerns, saying, "Oh, we'll figure something out. Don't stress." I went to bed that night with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I couldn't shake the thought that this was going to turn into a nightmare. Mia hadn't changed one bit, she was still the same entitled, manipulative person she'd always been, and now she was about to take over the one safe space Lily and I had left. Over the next few days, the favoritism became even more blatant. My mom catered to Mia's every whim, cooking her meals, running errands for her, and even buying her special pregnancy pillows. Meanwhile, I was lucky if my mom offered to make Lily a snack. It wasn't just annoying, it was infuriating. The hypocrisy was glaring, but any time I tried to bring it up, my mom would shrug and say, "Well, Mia's pregnant. She needs more help right now." It wasn't just my mom, either. My dad, who's usually quieter, suddenly became Mia's biggest supporter. He would sit and chat with her for hours about the baby, reminiscing about when we were kids, as if I didn't exist. It was like Lily and I were invisible. She'd leave her stuff everywhere, take over the living room, and act like she was the only person who mattered. One night, she even had the audacity to tell me, "You should be happy. Mom and Dad are helping you. Not everyone's so lucky." Lucky? That was rich coming from someone who'd been handed everything her whole life. I wanted to snap back, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Mia wasn't the type to listen, and my parents certainly weren't going to take my side. I started to feel trapped. This house had always been my parents' domain, but now it felt like Mia's. No matter how much I paid in rent or how much I contributed, it was clear that Lily and I were second-class citizens. I tried to focus on work and on being the best mom I could be for Lily, but the tension in the house was suffocating. Looking back, I should have seen the storm brewing. Mia's return wasn't just a reunion, it was the start of a battle for control, and in my parents' eyes, I was never going to win. It didn't take long for things to spiral completely out of control. Mia had only been back for a week, and it already felt like she was running the house. My parents treated her like she was made of glass, catering to her every whim. She barked orders, left messes everywhere, and acted like she was doing me a favor by tolerating my presence. Meanwhile, I was still paying rent, cooking my own meals, and taking care of Lily without any help. The signs that something was brewing were subtle at first. Mia started complaining loudly about how crowded the house felt. She'd sigh dramatically every time I walked into the living room or make snide remarks like, "It's hard to relax with all this chaos around." Chaos? Lily is the most well-behaved kid you could imagine, but Mia acted like my daughter was a tornado tearing through her precious space. My mom, of course, took Mia's side. "You have to understand, she's pregnant," she said one night after Mia had complained about Lily playing with her toys in the living room. "Pregnancy hormones can make you sensitive to noise and mess. She's sensitive to everything but her own attitude," I muttered under my breath. My mom didn't respond, but the look she gave me said it all. I was the problem in her eyes. Mia's complaints quickly turned into demands. One day, she announced, "I need the guest room for the nursery. It's too hard to keep everything in the bedroom." I looked up from the table where I was helping Lily with her homework. "You mean my room?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "Well, yeah," Mia said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You can move to the basement or something." "Excuse me?" I said. "I pay rent here. You can't just kick me out of my room." Mia rolled her eyes and turned to my mom, who was hovering nearby. "Mom, tell her this isn't a big deal. It's just temporary." My mom hesitated, glancing between us. "Sweetheart," she said, addressing me like I was a child, "you could make things easier on everyone if you just agreed. Mia needs the space more than you do." That was the first time I realized just how far my parents were willing to go for Mia. It didn't matter that I'd been there longer, paid rent, or had a child to take care of. Mia's wants were their priority, and I was just an inconvenience. I stood my ground, though. I refused to give up my room or let Mia bully me into submission. But the tension in the house kept building, and I started to feel like an outsider in my own home. My parents didn't say anything outright, but their silence spoke volumes. It was clear whose side they were on. Then, one day, I came home from work and immediately knew something was wrong. The first thing I saw was Lily sitting on the front porch, clutching her stuffed bunny and looking scared. Next to her were my suitcases and boxes, everything I owned, packed up and dumped outside. "Mommy," Lily said, her voice trembling, "why is our stuff out here?" My heart sank. I knelt down, hugging her tightly. "It's okay, baby," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's go inside and figure this out." Dragging my things behind me, I opened the door and walked in. The first thing I saw was Mia, sprawled out on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. My mom was in the kitchen, and my dad was in his armchair, watching TV. It was as if tossing me out was just another normal day for them. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. "Why is my stuff outside?" Mia barely looked up. "We needed the space," she said casually. "You were taking up too much room." My mom turned around, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Sweetheart, you always knew this arrangement wasn't permanent," she said, her tone annoyingly calm. "Mia's pregnant, and she needs peace and space. It's time for you to move on." "Move on?" I said. "I pay rent here. I help with groceries. You think it's okay to just throw me and Lily out like this?" My dad finally looked up from the TV, but instead of backing me up, he just said, "It's for the best. You'll figure it out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They weren't just kicking me out, they were doing it without a shred of guilt or remorse. And Mia? She was loving every second of it. The smug grin on her face made me want to scream. She'd gotten exactly what she wanted, me and Lily out of the picture so she could have the house to herself. I realized then that arguing would be pointless. My parents had made their decision, and nothing I said would change their minds. Swallowing my anger, I grabbed Lily's hand, picked up our things, and walked out. But as I left, I turned back and said, "You'll regret this." They didn't even flinch. My mom looked away, my dad went back to watching TV, and Mia smirked like she'd won some kind of prize. That night, I sat on the floor of a cheap motel room, holding Lily close while she slept. My anger was boiling over, but more than that, I felt hurt. These were my parents, the people who were supposed to love and support me, and they had chosen Mia over me without a second thought. But as I looked at Lily, so small and innocent, I knew I couldn't let this break me. I had to be strong for her. I wasn't just angry that they had kicked us out, I was furious at the sheer entitlement and disrespect they had shown. My parents had crossed the line, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. They thought they could shove me and my daughter aside like we didn't matter while still expecting me to keep paying the mortgage on their house. Not happening. The first thing I did was call the bank. Years ago, when my parents had refinanced the house, I had co-signed the loan because their credit wasn't good enough on its own. At the time, I thought I was helping them out. What I didn't realize was that I'd be stuck paying the mortgage when they conveniently forgot to send in payments. For years, I had covered for them because I didn't want to see them lose their home. But now I felt no such loyalty. I'm calling to inform you, I told the bank representative, that I will no longer be making payments on this loan. The representative seemed confused. Are you sure, ma'am? Missing payments could lead to foreclosure. That's fine, I said flatly. The house isn't mine anyway. The weight lifted off my shoulders almost immediately. For years, I had been tied to that house, pouring money into it while my parents treated me like an inconvenience. Now, they'd have to deal with the consequences. Next, I called a lawyer. I wanted to make sure that what they had done, throwing me and Lily out without notice, wasn't legal. It turned out that, while they couldn't technically evict me since I wasn't on the lease, my rent payments gave me certain tenant rights. The lawyer assured me that I could file a complaint or pursue damages if I wanted. Just knowing I had options gave me some peace of mind. With those two calls out of the way, I turned my focus to finding a new place to live. It wasn't easy, affordable apartments were hard to come by, and most places either had long wait lists or weren't in neighborhoods I felt comfortable raising Lily in. But after a few days of searching, I found a small one-bedroom apartment that fit my budget. It wasn't ideal, but it was ours. No one could kick us out, and that alone was worth everything. A week after I moved into the apartment, the calls from my mom started. At first, she sounded angry. How could you do this to us? She snapped. Do you have any idea what kind of stress you're putting on Mia? She's pregnant, for God's sake. I laughed bitterly. Stress? You mean the kind of stress you put on me and Lily when you threw us out? Funny how that didn't matter to you. We didn't throw you out, she said defensively. We just needed more space. You were going to leave eventually anyway. Sure, Mom, whatever helps you sleep at night. After that, her tone shifted. She started guilt-tripping me, telling me how much trouble they were in without my mortgage payments. Your father's pension doesn't cover everything, she said. And now we're behind on bills. Do you really want us to lose the house? Yes, I said simply. You threw us out. You don't get to demand my help after that. My dad was no better. He left a voicemail saying, you were being selfish. This is still your family, and family takes care of each other. Selfish? That word stung, considering everything I had done for them over the years. I'd put my own financial stability at risk to keep a roof over their heads, and they had the nerve to call me selfish. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Then there was Mia. Oh, Mia. If I thought she was entitled before, I hadn't seen anything yet. She started sending me passive-aggressive texts almost daily. Thanks for making my pregnancy even harder. Hope you're proud of yourself. Do you even care about this family anymore, or are you too busy playing victim? At one point, she even tried to manipulate me by bringing up Lily. What kind of example are you setting for your daughter, teaching her to abandon family when times get tough? Real classy. I didn't reply to any of her messages. Mia thrived on drama, and I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of a response. But each text only reinforced my decision to cut ties. These people didn't care about me or Lily, they only cared about what I could do for them. A few weeks later, the foreclosure notice arrived at my parents' house. I know this because my mom called me, crying hysterically. They're going to take the house, she wailed. Do something. Like what? I asked, genuinely curious. You were the ones who wanted me gone. Now you're getting what you wanted. You don't understand, she sobbed. Mia can't handle this kind of stress right now. She's not as strong as you. I couldn't help but laugh. Oh, I'm strong now? That's funny, considering you've spent my entire life treating me like I was second best. Figure it out, Mom. I'm done. Meanwhile, Lily and I were settling into our new apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was cozy. I decorated her room with fairy lights and her favorite cartoon characters, and we spent our weekends exploring the nearby parks and playgrounds. For the first time in years, I felt free. No more walking on eggshells around Mia, no more bending over backward to please parents who didn't appreciate me. It was just me and Lily, and that was more than enough. One evening, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she looked up at me and said, "I like it here, Mommy. It feels safe." Her words brought tears to my eyes. This tiny apartment wasn't much, but it was ours. No one could take it away from us, and that meant everything. By the end of the month, my parents were in full-blown panic mode. They called almost every day, alternating between begging for my help and trying to guilt-trip me. Mia even tried sending messages through mutual friends, claiming that I was tearing the family apart. But I held firm. For the first time in my life, I wasn't letting them manipulate me. They had made their choices, and now they were dealing with the consequences, and honestly, it felt good to finally stand up for myself. By the time the foreclosure process started, my parents were in full-on meltdown mode. I wasn't actively keeping tabs on them, but it was impossible to ignore the constant phone calls, voicemails, and even texts from relatives trying to convince me to help the family. Apparently, my parents had told everyone a highly edited version of events. According to them, I had abandoned them during a difficult time and refused to support my family, leaving poor Mia to suffer undue stress during her pregnancy. No mention of them kicking me and Lily out, of course, just me being the selfish daughter who stopped paying the mortgage. The calls started getting creative. My mom, Emily, left increasingly desperate voicemails. "We raised you, and this is how you repay us? Your father is beside himself. Please think about Mia. Her baby's due any day now, and the stress is unbearable. Do you really want to see us homeless? How will that look to Lily when she's older?" It was always the same tune, emotional manipulation wrapped up in a guilt trip. I stopped listening to the messages after a while. The few I accidentally answered were more of the same, with my mom swinging between sobbing and yelling about how I was tearing the family apart. Then there was Mia. Oh, Mia. She didn't just stop at guilt-tripping me, she escalated. She began posting on social media, painting me as the villain. Screenshots of these posts started coming to me through mutual friends. One read, "One thing I've learned is that family isn't always there for you when it matters most. Some people are just heartless." Another said, "Can't believe how cruel some people can be, especially during a time as sacred as pregnancy. I guess money matters more than family to some." At first, I ignored it, but when a friend of mine messaged me, saying, "Why is Mia saying you made her homeless?" I realized just how far she was willing to go. Mia wasn't just trying to guilt me, she was outright lying. I thought about addressing it but decided against it. The people who mattered knew the truth, and I wasn't going to waste energy defending myself to her social media minions. Besides, she was about to have much bigger problems to deal with. The official foreclosure notice arrived a few weeks later. My mom called me immediately, hysterical. "They're taking the house. What are we going to do?" she cried, her voice cracking. "That sounds like a you problem," I replied coolly. "I don't live there anymore, remember? Sweetheart, please," she begged. "Mia has nowhere to go, and you know your father's pension barely covers the basics. We're going to lose everything." "That's what happens when you rely on someone and then stab them in the back," I said. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before kicking out the person keeping a roof over your head." My dad, Robert, tried a different approach. He called later that day, his tone quieter but no less entitled. "Look, I know things got heated, but you don't want to see us homeless, do you? Think about Lily. How would you feel if she turned her back on you one day?" "Funny," I said. "You mean like how you turned your back on me and Lily when you tossed us out? Maybe she'd be better off learning not to tolerate people who treat her like garbage." He hung up after that. As the foreclosure progressed, the cracks in their perfect family facade started to show. Mia was livid. From what I heard through mutual contacts, she couldn't believe my parents had let things get this bad. She blamed them for not stepping up financially, as if they hadn't already bent over backward to accommodate her. "They should have figured out a way to keep the house," she allegedly told one friend. "I'm pregnant. What am I supposed to do now?" Ben, her husband, wasn't thrilled either. He'd apparently been footing most of their bills since they moved back to the States, and now, with a baby on the way, he was losing patience with Mia's entitled attitude. By the time their baby was born, Ben had had enough. He left her, citing irreconcilable differences, which I assumed was code for, "I'm tired of dealing with her nonsense." Mia, of course, played the victim, posting teary-eyed selfies with captions like, "Single mom life is so hard when no one supports you," and, "Some people just aren't cut out for real commitment." Meanwhile, my parents had no choice but to move into a small apartment in a less than desirable part of town. My mom took a part-time job at a pharmacy, something she hadn't done in decades, and my dad's pension barely covered their bills. Their once comfortable lifestyle had crumbled, and the reality of their choices was finally hitting them. I couldn't help but feel a little vindicated. For years, they had relied on me, taking my financial contributions for granted while treating me like an afterthought. Now they were facing the consequences of their entitlement, and it was clear they weren't handling it well. My mom called again, crying about how hard things had gotten. "We can barely afford groceries," she sobbed. "We had to sell the dining room set to cover rent last month." "I don't see how that's my problem," I said calmly. "You made your choices. Now live with them." Mia tried one last-ditch effort to rope me back in. She sent me a long-winded text, blaming me for everything that had gone wrong in her life. "You ruined my pregnancy, turned mom and dad against me, and now you're just sitting back and watching us suffer. I hope you're happy with yourself." I stared at the text for a long time before deleting it. I didn't owe Mia anything, not an explanation, not an apology, and certainly not my help. Meanwhile, Lily and I were thriving. Our tiny apartment had become a cozy home filled with laughter and peace. I was making plans to find a better job and eventually move to a nicer neighborhood, but for now, I was content. It was only a matter of time before the fallout hit rock bottom. My parents had lost the house, and Mia's husband, Ben, had left her. The house was gone, the bills were piling up, and all their bridges seemed to be burned. Meanwhile, Lily and I were doing better than ever. Our little apartment wasn't fancy, but it was safe, peaceful, and, most importantly, ours. One evening, about 2 months after the foreclosure was finalized, my phone rang. It was my mom. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, so I was curious enough to answer. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Sweetheart," she exclaimed, her voice trembling, "we need to talk. Please, can you come over?" I frowned. "Come over where?" "You lost the house. We're staying in a small apartment on Ridgeway Street," she said quickly. "It's not much, but it's home for now. Please, just come. We need you." Against my better judgment, I decided to go. Part of me was curious to see just how far things had unraveled for them. When I arrived, I was stunned. The apartment was tiny and cluttered with old, mismatched furniture. My parents, who had always been so proud of their once beautiful home, now looked worn and defeated. Mia sat in the corner with her baby, looking equally miserable. "Thanks for coming," my mom said, wringing her hands nervously. "What do you want?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. My mom's eyes welled up with tears. "We've made mistakes. We know that now. But we're struggling, and we need your help." "Help with what, exactly?" I asked, folding my arms. "The bills are piling up," my dad said, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. "We're behind on rent, and we've had to sell almost everything of value. Mia's doing her best, but she can't do it alone." At this, Mia finally spoke up, her tone sharp despite her pitiful appearance. "You were the one who put us in this mess. If you hadn't stopped paying the mortgage, we wouldn't be here." I let out a bitter laugh. "You mean, if you hadn't kicked me and Lily out of the house I was paying for, this wouldn't have happened? Funny how that works." Mia's face turned red, but she stayed silent. My mom tried to smooth things over. "We didn't handle things well. We see that now. But you're doing so well, and we're not. Please, can't you find it in your heart to help us, for family's sake?" I stared at her, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. Family's sake? The same family that had thrown me and my daughter out without a second thought? The same family that had treated me like a princess while treating me like an afterthought? "No," I said firmly. "I'm not helping you." My mom's face crumpled. "Sweetheart, please. We're desperate." "So was I when you threw me and Lily out," I snapped. "And you didn't care. You told me to figure it out, remember? Well, now it's your turn." My dad tried to interject. "It's different now. We're older, and Mia has a baby. We can't do this alone." "Mia's baby isn't my responsibility," I said coldly. "Neither are your bills. You made your choices. Now live with them." The room went silent. For a moment, I thought they might finally understand, but then Mia spoke again. "You were such a selfish," she started, but my mom cut her off. "Mia," she snapped, surprising both of us. It was the first time I'd ever seen my mom reprimand her. "This isn't helping." Mia huffed and crossed her arms, glaring at me like a petulant child. I turned to leave, but my mom grabbed my arm. "Wait," she said, her voice cracking. "Please, just think about it. We're not asking for much, just a little help until we get back on our feet." I shook her hand off. "You had all the help in the world when I was paying your mortgage and contributing to your household. You threw it away. I don't owe you anything." With that, I walked out the door, ignoring their protests. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me anymore. Over the next few weeks, the calls came less frequently, but when they did, they were even more desperate. My mom left voicemails sobbing about how hard things were. "We've hit rock bottom," she said in one. "I don't know how much longer we can hold on." Mia, meanwhile, continued her social media tirades, painting herself as the victim of heartless family betrayal. Friends occasionally sent me screenshots, but I didn't care. Let her play the victim. I knew the truth, and so did anyone who mattered. Then, one day, the call stopped entirely. I heard through a distant relative that my parents had moved into an even smaller place and were selling off what little they had left. Mia had reportedly ended up in a shelter with her baby, still clinging to the belief that the world owed her something. Meanwhile, Lily and I were thriving. Our little apartment had become a cozy sanctuary filled with laughter and love. I had found a better job, one that allowed me to save up for the future. On weekends, Lily and I would explore parks, visit museums, or just enjoy quiet evenings at home. Watching her smile and play reminded me why I had made the choices I did. She deserved a happy, stable life, and I was determined to give it to her. One night, as we sat on the couch watching her favorite movie, Lily turned to me and said, "I like it here, Mommy. It's just us, and it's perfect." Her words brought tears to my eyes. For so long, I had let my family's toxicity dictate my life. Now, I was free, and for the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. My parents and Mia had made their choices, and now they were facing the consequences. As for me, I had finally found my strength. I had no intention of going back, no matter how much they begged. My life, my happiness, and my daughter's future were worth far more than anything they could offer. And that, I realized, was the ultimate victory.